No.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Rossi, Chairman of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to call this regular meeting to order. Will clerk please call the roll?
Michael Rossi,
Here.
Bo Clark,
Here.
Ellen Dahlgren. Eddie Alberino,
Here.
Michael Florio is unable to attend. Chinzia Lettieri is unable to attend. Jay Mandel,
Here.
Zach Ford,
Here.
Dylan Walter,
Here.
Andrew Randy,
Here.
Susan Marcus, here, Brian Pellegrini.
Here. Okay. I will be seating Susan for Cynthia. Ryan for Mike Florio and Andrew for Ellen. Okay, and we have a quorum. I have just a couple comments. One, just to let everybody know, I'm not going to be here next month, so we'll be leaving it in Bo's capable hands to run the meeting and keep everything moving. More importantly, we have a tentatively scheduled a special meeting for June 22nd for the changes that we have to make to address the housing bill that was passed last year. We're going to discuss that more later, but I want to make sure everybody has that date in mind. So we still won't quite make the July 1st deadline, but you know, with the appeal period, but we'll be pretty close. And so that's the best I think we can do. With that, we'll move on to minutes, review and approval of the April 13th, 2026 meeting minutes. Did anybody see any issues with those?
Everybody's looking at me.
You always have something to say, Paul. Come on.
Okay,
I make a motion.
okay, go ahead.
I like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mike wants to say something too.
Okay. New business. We have, Planning and Zoning Commission 26-9, which is a special exception for a supermarket. At 224 East Main Street. This is a special exception, so we need to receive it and schedule the public hearing on June 8th. If there's an agent or applicant here tonight that wants to give a really brief statement, that I accept that. Is there anybody here? No, in that case, we can simply receive and schedule for public hearing.
I can make a motion to receive PZC 26-9, which is a special exception for 224 East Main Street and schedule for public hearing on June 8th.
Second. Okay, thank you, Susan. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we have Planning and Zoning Commission 26-10, which is the coastal site plan for the same project. Since we're going to be doing those two simultaneously, we'll just receive that tonight, not have any testimony. We're going to get a motion to receive this.
I like to make a motion to receive, Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
That's, right.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you. These are easy part. Planning and Zoning Commission 26-11, special exception to approve a rear lot pursuant to section 27.2.13 at 75 East Main Street. This is again, it's a special exception, so we'll need to receive and schedule a public hearing on June 8th. Is there anybody here for this
So this is actually it's a joint project between the town, Zenith Partners and Hope Partnership. This is the Pearson School. So the site plan has already come before you for all of the requisite approvals. What is before you now is the actual lot split to enable the division of land so the town can maintain the green gazebo area. And then ultimately transfer what would be the rear parcel, the Pearson School proper and the parking areas over to the developer, and then would be able to then negotiate the lease back of the senior center area. So that project is progressing, and this is the next step.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to receive and schedule for public hearing on
I'd like
the
to make a motion to receive and schedule for a public hearing,
on June
June
I'll second that.
8th? Thank you. All those in favor?
8th. Aye.
Opposed? Standing? Motion carried. Thank you. Now we're to the public hearing section. The first item, we don't need to read that yet because it's not on here. The first one is Planning and Zoning Commission 25-22. We've had several continuances on this. It's a special exception for a storage facility at 335 East Main Street. And this is the industrial zone 2. Because it's been continued a couple times. Yeah,
I need to recuse myself.
you're gonna recuse yourself? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead and step out and we'll bring you in when. We're gonna, thank you, Bill. Okay, because it's been continued a couple times, we have to close the public hearing tonight.
Yeah.
We've hit our statutory limit on it. So we can't get any new information after tonight. Is there an agent or applicant here tonight to discuss this?
Yes,
Okay,
gonna just go up and do a quick thing along here. It'll be done in like 2 minutes. I'm just go up, go up and do a quick description of what.
And Bob, we can pull it up for you.
Okay.
If you want to just, Lori will get it up and, you can tell her which attachment you'd like open.
Yeah, I'm just about done here. I'm about ready. The Zoom meeting. We are here. Good. All right, then just go here and download the documents.
Is it telling you you're in the meeting, Bob? Because we're not seeing you in the meeting to be able to turn the host over to you.
Yep.
Are you in the meeting? Because we're not seeing you in the meeting,
Okay.
but we can pull stuff up and.
Yeah, I can see myself. Let's go about that. This one.
This meeting is being recorded.
Or just need you to mute yourself so that we don't get feedback.
Okay, I'm kidding.
you was muted.
There we go. And let's see. How do I turn it over so you can,
Touch the up share button.
I'm sorry, what that?
There's a share button with an arrow that points up. Want to hand it a moment?
Right, you. So I've got it on the main screen.
Not sure which thing you're looking to shoot.
Just the back screen.
I think. It's screens that you were looking to shoot. So I think, Lori, can you just pull up, if you tell Lori which document?
Yeah, some documents. I can actually just forward it to Lori if you want.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so just,
It's all the way at the bottom.
do you know which one it is?
Here at the bottom of the drawings. Do
These are
any drawing one or drawing two. Doesn't probably work.
This one?
Good, let's do that.
Drawing two, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, perfect, thank
There
you.
we go.
Okay, for the record, my name is Robert Graverick. I'm with Osprey Environmental Engineering. And I'm representing my client, Shoreline Partners Incorporated, and we have two people here that can answer any questions that you may have of them. What we have is a site, this is East Main Street right here. Next door to it is Grove Gardens. In front is M&M Motors. They have the car wash, right? They have a car wash and some used cars and things like that. So this property is tucked in the back. On this side, which is the east, we have going all the way across Grove Gardens. And they primarily have right now earth storage, and they're moving a lot of earth materials and things like that. We have residential structures along the side here, and then again, M&M Motors up front. And there's a parcel down here that had an antique store. It's a commercial site, and the applicants own that parcel as well. So what we're looking to do is install self-storage units and a warehouse unit. We have buildings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they're standard self-storage buildings. We have submitted some pictures of what they look like. They're standard self-storage buildings, single story, a number of units in all of them. And those meet the zoning regulations regarding maximum size, which is kind of small, but we put them in there. The last building up here is more of a warehouse because there are a number of commercial facilities in Clinton that also need warehouse space. And we're proposing to build that and lease it out to other businesses that need warehousing. Joe, you were talking to some people around the need for the warehousing.
Yes, we have people with interest. Walls in that building will be made.
Excuse me, you need to identify yourself for the record.
Joe Barnick.
Who's the owner?
There is interest in warehousing at different size units.
Right.
We'll have movable walls, so we can pretty much handle whatever size they want. So.
Okay. All right, so the majority of the site will be self-storage, so there will be no power in the buildings, there'll be some power on the outside for the motion activated lights for night, so they can see they're going, they're driving around. There's no internal electricity, there's no plumbing at all on the site, so there's no need for a septic system. No heat, so no oil, gas, or any connections like that. And so they're pretty much gonna be typical self-storage units where people come in, do whatever they've got to do in there, pull things out, and then head out. There will be no active presence on the site. There's not going to be use or anything. There's a proposed gate at the beginning here, coming up the hill, and traffic will circulate here, go through and back out this way. At some point, when the last building, last phase of the project is installed, the fence will be taken down. There'll be a drive access through here and here, and there'll be another gate put up there. So it's going to be a pretty low traffic area, not a lot of utilities, and self-storage buildings. So we've gone through, we've done the appropriate tables. It meets the zoning requirements, and all that is pretty well set forward. The only issue we've had, and that's the issue that has been kind of dragging this on, is that of the stormwater requirements. And I understand that there is going to be a public hearing a little later on this evening regarding the proposed revisions to the town zoning regulations to incorporate stormwater regulations, and I'm sure we'll have a few more comments to say at that point in time. So under the existing regulations, we're not required, as I understand it, to comply with the stormwater quality manual because they haven't been adopted into your regulations yet. We've been doing our best to try and meet those anyway, and that was what the delay has been. I'm gonna turn my phone off right now. So turn the thing off. There. So that's been the whole delay. Everything else has been pretty straightforward. It's my impression that we're very close to meeting the rather drastic stormwater regulations that have been imposed on my client, and we understand that the stormwater quality manual is something that the state would like to impose on all the communities, and I'll save more comments on that for later on with the other public hearing. But what else do we have? We've got landscaping. We've got a 50-foot buffer between this building and the residential area. Here we're right up against the Grove Garden site, but they have much heavier commercial industrial use than is ever anticipated on this site. We've got plantings of trees here. We've got a fairly extensive detention retention pond in that area. Here we're going to have underground infiltration galleries, and I've been going back and forth with your consulting town engineer regarding getting all the pieces into place to make this presentable so it meets the stormwater quality manual that the DEP has put out.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a note from the engineer saying that at this point, you're still missing information to
Yes.
meet those requirements.
So the question I have is, I think I'm pretty close. I believe he thinks we're close, but I'm not sure. So I think at this point, I'd like to sit down and have your consulting engineer let you know how close or how far apart we are, and I can make a more informed comments on that area.
You're like,
I'm up.
you're up.
All right, so I'm Chuck Eaton. I'm the town engineer. I don't think I've actually been before the commission before. I know Eddie, but I think, you know, you guys are kind of new faces to me here. So so I'm the town engineer, and so I've been working with Bob, and you know, pretty much over the last week. I know Bob worked the weekend to try and get calculations put together. So it's close, but it's nothing, it's not at the point where I can sign off on it yet, the town and state requirements. There's a bunch of different modeling issues that still need to be worked out. And I can go into, you know, specifics on those if you folks would like. Or Bob, if you would like.
I think you've got the floor. You should go ahead.
You go ahead, Chuck.
Okay, well, I meant like Bob wanted me to go into specifics.
Yeah, I think at this point, instead of going into, you know, really specific details, the question is, we have the retention to detention pond. We've got the underground infiltrators here. The calculations indicate that it meets the pre versus post peak discharges. I don't think there's any question that we have the water quality volume issue resolved. And so do you have comments regarding the overall site plan minus the stormwater quality issues?
Well, so this is kind of one of the issues that I have, is that, you know, we really were under the clock to try and get this finalized and reviewed. And I don't think that we've had enough time to fully go through the plans with all the different revisions and to fully be able to evaluate everything. I think in general it meets it, but I don't think that there's been enough time to review that.
So if I can interrupt, so what you're telling us is you're not comfortable putting your name at the bottom of this?
That's correct at this point, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and if I can say at this point, we're being held to a standard that is not currently in the zoning regulations.
It is a standard we have been applying.
You've been applying a standard over several years,
Right.
but not as drastically as this.
Well, we haven't had somebody argue it so much, but yes, we have been holding that standard to what the town engineer feels comfortable saying.
Yes, but the big thing, the elephant in the room here, which is the subject of an additional public hearing this evening, is adopting the stormwater quality manual that the DEP has put out. And for years, we've done the infiltration of the first inch of rain runoff, you know, been doing that forever. They've upped it to 1.3 inches. I mean, you know, it's not a problem. The big issue is the peak discharge, which you really haven't addressed all that much in the past. And most towns, so basically, stormwater runoff, there's normally civil engineering criteria. If you have a parking lot, you would normally take a look at the peak discharge for, say, a 10-year storm. For town roads, it'd be a 25-year storm. For state highways, you go to the 100-year storm, which is drastically more involved than a 10 or a 25-year storm. And in doing that, you impose design requirements that normally were only done with state highway projects. So that presents a significant increase in the threshold to be met by applicants coming in front of your commission. And the way to explain this is, so if I were to have a site plan in front of you for a proposed house, and the house had 4 bedrooms, the health department would go to the public health code and say 4 bedrooms, you know, 2 people per bedroom, 150 gallons per day, etc. We design a septic system. But in 100 years lifespan of a house, how often might you have, say, a wedding reception there, a gathering for grandma who's turning 100-year-old.
And how does any of that affect your site plan here?
It does
And
not,
its
but it's an
ability
analogy.
to meet the stormwater regulations?
It's an analogy, and what I'm trying to present an analogy is that why not make all houses, design a septic system for all the people that might be present at one point in time in 100 years?
It's completely irrelevant.
Like, haven't we historically gone with 100-year?
We've been, we have historically been doing this, following the state, regulations. And that's what we didn't single this application out,
I understand.
okay? This is what we have had as our standard. And so, right now, what we're getting is, the rest of the project, I agree, it looks good. I think you, but the stormwater management issue, is still not resolved. And we have to close the public hearing tonight.
Yes.
I think, so I think the issue really before this commission for the applicant, now the decision is to be made is, in my opinion, we can't approve this without the town engineer's stamp of approval.
Exactly.
So you're faced with two options. You can reach a denial, in which case I'm assuming the commission agrees that we can't go forward without the engineer's.
That's what I was doing,
So there's a couple options here. You can try to push it forward, in which case you're most likely gonna get denied. And in that case, you can't reapply for a certain amount of
Well,
time. Or
we
you
can deny
withdraw.
without
You
prejudice.
can deny without prejudice, or you can withdraw the application and reapply, and you can actually petition the commission to waive the application fee for a new application.
Mr. Vice Chair, with all due respect, I'd like to finish here with Chuck had to say. He was interrupted because Chuck Eaton, I have a lot of respect for him. He does everything by the book, so let him finish, let him tell us what's exactly.
Sure, so what I was gonna say is the drainage calculations, the issues that I have with the drainage calculations, right now, they're showing that there isn't an increase to the north of the property. Right, because you have your the east and the north kind of sort of combined in your calculations now, showing that there is no increase. And there's some different things, some modeling calculations that are giving some errors that I think, if Bob goes back and fixes a couple things, I think it'll work out. But the problem is right now, the way the numbers go, it is showing an increase. And, if there's ever an issue in the future or anything like that, you don't increase flows off of your property, which has been a town and state requirement for a very long time. So that's kind of the main crux of the issue at the moment. And
Is it just a calculation, Chuck, or is it?
well, I don't know. I think it is.
It could be just a calculation.
I think so, but to finalize everything and to sign off on everything, you need the numbers to
Of course,
match
correct.
the narrative, so.
The problem with this is that we can accept our staff's recommendation at a later date, but he cannot receive information from the applicant.
I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did submit the revised drainage plan. And what I understand completely, you didn't have enough time to review it, but it did correct that issue and shows that they pre and post for all the different areas on the site do meet the requirement and have less runoff than they did previous pre-development.
Yes.
But you have to look at
I
it.
know,
I understand.
and yeah, and it would we just need a little bit more time
I got that, yeah.
to go through that stuff, and I think.
So is there a way,
Well,
is there a way of not denying it, but
what we can do, Eddie,
accept it and like without prejudice? Well, don't deny it with prejudice, but accept it. But it has to, if
you're saying with condition.
Yeah, well, conditions, because if Chuck feels he's close, and it could be just a calculation, I'd like to, get it in, because stormwater management is very important. So if we accept it and approve it with a condition that it comes back with Chuck's, because Chuck has to sign off on it, we can't not.
What,
You don't understand what I'm trying to say?
right,
Accept it.
and some of this should be what we discuss after the public hearing closes.
Yeah, so in other words, don't kibosh it, and we'll get, whatever Chuck says, we can approve it with conditions. As long as it meets his criteria.
I'm comfortable with that.
I would ask if Chuck is comfortable with that. If that is,
In other words, Chuck, we can approve it like, but you have to come back and say he has to do X, Y, Z, and if he doesn't do X, Y, Z, it's warranted.
Sure, we could do that. I think the thing that the commission has to realize is that, new information is going to be provided for review if there's any changes to the plan, this sort of thing,
It's not good procedure.
No,
It's not, but this has been going on for a long time,
I know.
and he's not cheap, Mr. Barnick is, they got awful lot of money in this, but the stormwater management is so important.
like I said, a lot of this should be discussed when we're reviewing the application.
Yeah, right.
Not during the public hearing.
Well, Chuck was speaking and he said it was very close and it's basically a calculation.
I have one other question for the applicant before we get into other things. There was a question or discussion about the lighting, and you showed the photometric plan showing the light spillage.
Yes,
But there was no detail showing that they'd be full cutoff fixtures. Have the fixtures been shown on the lighting plan submitted to the,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Do have a question.
Some of the other
Go
things,
ahead.
yeah,
You mentioned that there'd be no power to the units.
other than for lighting.
Are any gonna be climate controlled units?
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
Need power for that.
yeah, I wanted just to make sure that he didn't say one thing and they would not.
And as I said before, there will not be a manned office on the site. So there's no office, there's no toilets, there's no power or heating required for that.
With this, I know there isn't anybody here from the public, but I do have to, for the record, ask if there's anybody here from the public who would like to speak in favor of this application. Could you please let me know? Applicants aren't.
That was the engineer.
And anyone who opposes this application want to speak at this time? Okay. And of course, anyone who just wants to make general comments. Okay, again, there isn't anybody in the audience other than the applicant. So that, just to make sure it's all in the record. But the applicant wants to say something, sir, go ahead.
From Chuck's point of view, can he give us what he needs? Can't do that. This has been an issue that's been taking time. You want a certain thing, Bob goes and fixes it, and then it goes back to you, but things seem to change somewhat, and I don't know why.
Sure, so initially. Bob was modeling the two main stormwater basins on site to work to reduce his post-development peak flows. He was having trouble getting enough volume in those, so he added the stone trenches that are beneath them, in between the four units. So those were some new added calculations. And so we went back and forth on that a little bit. So it's an evolving design. So it's not like, okay, we fixed one thing, but now we've added two or three other things that need to be reviewed. Do you see what I mean? So it's not just like, you're not just, it's a complicated design. It's not just one little thing that you're like, okay, we'll change this, okay, we're all set.
Is there any way, board's point of view, that we could, well, I guess, withdraw this or not, or vote, I don't know. To try to
Well,
accept this to maybe with conditions and make it the next month's meeting so that they have a chance to work it out. So
Right,
we don't
that was
have to
going
wait
to be
another
my
3 months
suggestion.
to be accepted again and go forward.
that was going to be my suggestion once we got to the discussion
I
of.
don't know if you can or you can't, but
Yeah.
just say,
Those are things that we can talk, we can discuss. And
okay.
I do have one observation. When we started this process, I would submit a design, Chuck would get back to me and have comments. But there was a significant time lag between the two of them, and towards the end, we came to an arrangement where I would submit things to Chuck directly. Instead of uploading them, he would have some comments, I would address them, and it just like sped up the process immeasurably. And that was extremely helpful. And, Chuck has been helpful also. He's had some ideas regarding engineered loam at the bottom of the pond and things like that. So, I think we're working well together. I think it's just, the time lag, he's busy, I'm busy. But towards the end, we were able to go back and forth, and just, work a lot of things out. And I think the whole process accelerated considerably, just by doing that. So that was extremely helpful.
We do like to help people, but we
I know.
can't.
Okay, at this time then, are there any other questions or comments from the commission, Abby?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if from Trust's perspective, just to have on the record right now, so there was a sort of discharge volume that was in question. Are there any pollutant removal pieces that still need review, or have those been addressed, or have you not had a chance to see the full current design yet?
Based on what Bob has now, he is collecting and treating the water quality volume. Primarily through and using infiltration as a management practice, so that does meet the reduction requirements.
I'm gonna kind of distinguish that for the commission.
Yeah, it's mainly a peak flow issue with this.
So we are close.
Open.
I mean,
Yes,
Go ahead, Doug.
I don't know if this should be but I mean, it sounds like we're not waiting so much. I mean, peak flow is a rather significant thing. If you all remember what happened in Saybrook and Westbrook this past year, I mean, the 100-year storms now are forecasting much towards a 25-year frequency. If you think about it in that capacity, like, although it sounds like a small thing, it is a thing that must be considered.
That's why we were talking about storm as well.
Okay,
Can I make a motion to close the public hearing?
yes, you may.
I'd like to make a motion to close this public hearing.
Okay,
Second that motion.
thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Somebody needs to get Dylan in here.
Yes. Leave them out there.
Okay. While he's doing that, can you read the notice of public hearing for the next item?
Absolutely. The Town of Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Monday, May 11th, 2026 at 7 p.m. to consider the following. PZC 26-7, which is a text amendment for stormwater management, section 36 of the Clinton zoning regulations. The applicant is the Town of Clinton. At said hearing, all persons will have the right to be heard. The applications and correspondence are available for public inspection at the town's website. Anybody requiring special accommodation to participate, the public meeting should contact the land use office at 860-669-6133. Michael Rossi, Chairman, Town of Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is, our new section 36 of the Clinton zoning regulations. Abby, do you want to present this?
Absolutely. So, through you, Mr. Chair, the section 36 of the Clinton zoning regulations would be titled Stormwater Management and would codify the requirements the town already has under the MS4 program, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer management program. And so this is a program that is delegated from the EPA down to the state. The state manages this through a general permit under which municipalities of certain sizes are able to submit sort of stormwater management plans and have certain controls that they are supposed to put in place along the way in order to meet the provisions essentially of the Clean Water Act. And so Clinton has been participating since 2017. That was the date of our first stormwater management plan. And it includes multiple minimum control measures. And these range from water quality sampling to public education and outreach to regulatory amendments that need to be adopted as time goes on. Clinton has been behind in the actual adoption of the regulations, but we are still bound by those standards and required to make sure that we are upholding the requirements that the state has set forward. And as folks are, I'm sure, aware, the state was using for a long time guidance documents through the 2004 stormwater quality, stormwater management plan for the state, and that has now since changed the stormwater quality manual for 2024. And so that is the standard that our engineer is applying and that we're obligated to make sure is being met along the way, in order to fulfill our obligations under the town of Clinton's general permit in this MS4 program. So this goes beyond just the zoning regulations and has a bigger piece. Many towns adopt and require this in the zoning regulations because we are obligated through our permit to make sure that we are looking at the time of development, whether it's redevelopment, new development, or retrofitting of existing stormwater facilities, that things are coming up to the standards that they are supposed to be at today. So that is where the commission initiated this zoning amendment to make sure that as applicants are coming forward, they understand clearly what the standards are, that there's no confusion about those standards, and that it's very, very sort of spelled out in black and white. So these include things like the design criteria, meeting the best management practices and recommendations of the plan, and then the requirements therein. Looking at, sort of improving LID, low impact development practices, really trying to treat our stormwater and ultimately fulfill one of the purposes outlined in the commission under zoning to protect the waters of Long Island Sound, because that's essentially what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's all sort of part and parcel of what this regulation does. The regulation requires the site design criteria that Chuck is using to evaluate these. Folks are required as part of their applications under this regulation to make sure they have their stormwater management plan in place. So all of the design criteria, project phasing, soil erosion and sediment controls, all those pieces that we currently require are sort of in this piece here. The other part of this is, there's certain activities that would be prohibited. So you can't obviously, discharge into wetlands or town drainage without treatment. There are requirements to look at reducing directly connected impervious areas. So areas where stormwater sort of flows without treatment toward receiving water bodies. There's also requirements for reporting in here, and that's something that is, we try to check on with sites as they go, but we have an obligation under our general permit and under our stormwater management plan to make sure that we are reporting annually. And part of that annual report is making sure that we make sure that the maintenance is happening on these systems, that we are following what happens with development as we go. So this, again, we don't want any surprises for our applicants. We want to make sure they understand what is codified and what the requirements will be over time. A couple of things, we did refer this to for all the required referrals under the zoning legislation. We did receive feedback from the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments. They reviewed the text and found that it was consistent with conservation and protection of Long Island Sound and the Regional Plan of Conservation and Development. DEEP also reviewed it for consistency with the Coastal Management Act and found it to be consistent. And again, specifically in Connecticut General Statute 8.2, which sort of directly talks about securing or adopting zoning regulations to protect environmental resources of Long Island Sound. This is in support of that. And then again, the general safety and welfare provisions in our own section 1.4 in our zoning regulations, it's consistent. I also included in the staff report to this areas in which this is consistent with our recently adopted 2025 Plan of Conservation and Development. There's specifically recommendations to update our regulations to be consistent with the most current manual So that's all there. And then again, focusing on low impact development and anything that improves water quality that reaches Long Island Sound. So these are all things that are all sort of consistent in pointing us to the need to go with this adoption, which is I think why the commission brought the regulation forward in the first place. Chuck has happened, our town engineer has had an opportunity to review this and, found the language to also be consistent with the requirements of the manual. Chuck also does our MS4 reporting analysis for us every year. And so he is the one working with us to submit our reports to DEEP, on an annual basis. And so, and has found this to be consistent with the requirements of our minimum control measures as listed in that plan for regulatory measures to adopt. So this is one piece of what we'll have to do. There are other regulatory pieces that may be something that we recommend to the town council by ordinance for illicit discharge and other types of things. But for the zoning component of it, this would bring us into compliance with what we really should have had in our regulations for a long time and have been obligated to follow for many years.
Now,
So I don't know if
to
there's any-
be clear, a lot of this is already in our regulations, it's just not in one place.
Exactly, exactly. There's references to low impact development, there's grading, erosion, and sediment control, there's site plan requirements. So these things are peppered throughout. This brings everything together, so there's not guesswork for the
So
applicant.
it makes it clear.
And I don't know if Chuck has anything you wanted to add.
Go ahead, sir.
Chuck Eaton, town engineer for the record. So the other nice thing about this is that the state has put the stormwater management handbook together such that it meets the requirements of the MS4 permit. So we don't actually have to write our own stormwater regulations, which basically we could. But why would we do that as a town if the state already has the manual that meets the requirements? Because under the MS4 permit, we would be required to meet these different requirements anyway. So why would we spend the time and the money to rewrite everything when it's already right here? The other nice thing that Abby mentioned was that the state will update the manual based on what the EPA's requirements are going to be in the future. So that's another thing that we don't need to necessarily worry about. We adopt the manual and any future additions of it, and that basically keeps us in compliance with our state permitting.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions from the commission? At this time, I would like to open this up to comments from the public. And I know we've got one
Interested party.
interested party. Characterize it, opposition, in favor, general comments.
A bit of both.
Okay,
So I'm involved in a lot of stormwater permitting, and the state tries to apply their regulations pretty much everywhere. And there are a lot of things they do that are sensible. There are a lot of things that are questionable. For example, the town transfer station has got a stormwater individual or general permit. And as part of that general permit, they will be having to sometime within the next 180 days, if they have filed their new permit application, to put a sign up in front of the facility, 2x3, Spanish and English, saying, we have a stormwater permit. If you don't like what we're doing here, here's the hotline, you can call on us. I don't know if that's going to meet the town zoning regulations or other town zoning regulations, but any facility, including all the marinas in town that have stormwater permits, which they probably all do, fleet facilities, wastewater treatment plants, what other ones am I doing besides marinas? Maintenance facilities, they suddenly have to put signs in front saying we have a stormwater permit. To me and to my applicants, it seems like a unnecessary thing to do. You may disagree, but there are a lot of things they do, and in my opinion, to just wholesale adopt these state regulations pretty much gives up all autonomy that the town may have to look after the town's interests. And a lot of towns, pretty much all towns in the state of Connecticut are following, the MS4 permitting process, and towns have taken different tacks as far as how they amend their zoning regulations and what they put in them. And so I would be against, to my opinion, just to wholesale adopt the town stormwater quality manual. And the reason I have for it goes way back. My first job was with the state health department. And the one thing that separated the state health department from the DEP was there was a firm belief in the state health department that if you're going to regulate a community, that you should go through the regulations adoption process. You post proposed regulations, you open up public hearings, you get feedback, you modify as necessary, you go in front of the legislative review commission that reviews all regulations. Once all those steps are in place, you adopt the regulations and you enforce them uniformly on the regulated community. In the case of the stormwater quality manual, that doesn't go through any of those processes. They may have some public comments, but it doesn't go through legislative review board and the other, what I consider to be appropriate checks on what the regulated community is being subjected to. So I think it's not an approach that I am in favor of. And if you just say, we're going to adopt the stormwater quality manual, and next year they come out with something saying all pavement is outlawed in the stormwater quality manual, you have to rip up your driveways and put in pervious pavers. I mean, obviously it's an extreme position, but if it goes in there, you're forced to adopt it. And so one of the towns I've done extensive work with through my entire career is the town of Greenwich. And they have been doing a lot of this for probably the last 10 or 15 years. And they've taken a different approach. And their approach is to come up with a number of categories for the regulations kick in under these circumstances. I brought a couple copies of their process, and I'll hand it a copy. Yes, I'll hand you a copy. I'll just read a couple of the things that they do. So for some categories, they just exempt everything from the stormwater quality regulations, and fairly small things, but they do. They have to have an owner certification, a contractor certification that this is what they intend to do. It's what they'll hold. This is the town of Greenwich. For projects up to 500 square feet of impervious surfaces, you have to go through a number of processes. A professional engineer reviews it. It doesn't have to go through the town engineer. It's reviewed by a professional engineer. They sign off on it, and it gets submitted to the town. They do a review. And if so, then they go ahead and do what they're doing, with certain provisions added in. For larger projects, then they've got to go through the full project process. So for the 500 and under square feet that a professional engineer is signing off on, they don't require you to do a 100-year storm runoff. They require you to do a 1, 2, 5, 10, and 25-year design study, but they don't go up to the 100-year study. And this is the town of Greenwich. For the larger projects, they do make you do the 100-year runoff, and with reason. So what they've done is they've taken an approach where they say, this is what the state wants us to do all of these things, meet the requirements, the character of our town. And their answer was, most of them do, but not all of them. So we are going to tailor our stormwater program based on what we feel is best for the town of Greenwich. They've got all the regulations, everything's online, it's easily accessible, forms, procedures and things like that. So if you, instead of just wholesale doing what the state of Connecticut wants you to do, if you look at existing regulations online that may better suit the needs of the town of Clinton, somebody's already done it, it's already there. You wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel and spend a lot of time and guessing. They've been working on it for 10 years or so. And I would highly recommend taking at least a look at the other towns and realizing that not all towns are just blanket adopting the state regulations as they are. gives you some autonomy. It gives some protection for, if one size doesn't fit all for our community. And, as I said, other towns have already done it. You can look at the regulations and say, you know, no, we don't like it all. Let's go with the state, or at least look at the alternative and say, maybe this might suit us better.
Thank you.
That's it. And again, it's
Watch the
all,
wire when you move.
yes, it's all, you know, on the Town of Greenwich website.
And anybody else, from the public would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Are there any more questions for?
I have a question, and my question really is to Abby. I know how thorough you are, and I'm assuming you've looked at these different options.
Correct. I haven't specifically reviewed Greenwich,
Right,
but did take a look at other communities as well. There are many that are using the stormwater quality manual as their basis for the reasons that Chuck talked about. And trying to be consistent and making sure that we're meeting those requirements under the program as we go. I think one of the things that we made sure that we put in was that this applies to all new development and redevelopment that will disturb 10,000 square feet or more. If you're under that square footage, you are actually, we have our sort of nuisance related regulations that says you can't discharge onto other properties, but it's not the same scrutiny of review that you would have under this. Single family homes, farming activities are also exempted. So we did sort of tailor these to make sure we pulled out anything that, we didn't want to be overly, sort of overreaching, especially for single family homes. If a single family home is part of a subdivision and their water drains to a common stormwater facility, that's a little bit different, because that entire site then is designed with particular stormwater elements, but for the sort of average single family home, that wouldn't be included.
I assume you've looked into it. Thank you.
Again, with that new development and redevelopment, very complex. You know, it gives you, we talked about it the other day, but so many square feet.
Correct. And I don't know, Chuck, if you want to go through with us any of the sort of the distinction between new development and redevelopment. We had this conversation as part of a wetlands hearing recently, but maybe of value.
So what would you consider this, Abby? Redevelopment or new development?
I think we qualify under new, correct?
This would be new development, yes.
Yeah.
It's just bring more than 40% of the site.
40% of the site.
And so some of it, sometimes it's not necessarily intuitive for, it's what you think of as, oh, well, there's been something happening on this site, it must be redevelopment. That's not necessarily true under the manual. It's the percent of the site that you're disturbing.
And what's the square footage of this? Full square footage of the project?
Well, that public hearing is closed, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So the way the manual differentiates between new development and redevelopment is based on the existing amount of impervious area that you have on the site. So if your site has 40% or more, you're considered a redevelopment. If you're less than 40%, it's considered new development. So that's how, because it's a very subjective thing, okay, we're developing 10 acres and there's a house on it. Well, is that a redevelopment or is it a new development? So that's how they differentiate between the two, is based on the amount of impervious area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Any, go ahead, Brian.
Should we not be in compliance if something happens? Are we entitled to state funds to correct that?
So I don't believe the MS4 program is tied to discretionary funds, but there are fines that the EPA can levy on the town for not complying.
We have to comply with the state regulation. It's just a matter of going with the state manual is what they're talking about, differentiating the two there.
Everything we have is in our manual, but it's just.
It's not in one place.
It's not one place, so
Well,
you have to really go look for it.
And
And that's what we're
don't,
working on, getting it all in one place.
Yeah.
right, and we do not currently have our own standards separate from the manual that would lay out the design criteria, reporting mechanisms and all that kind of stuff. It's we that are peppered through, but it all sort of references back to these common tools, right?
Chuck.
Right, and a lot of what it talks about is requiring town engineer review and requiring consistency with applicable policies and all that kind of stuff. this puts it under no uncertain terms. The policy is this. It is the manual for the BMPs, the best management practices that achieve the performance standards that are required under the law. That's what this is.
And what I was getting at with my first comment was, what we're trying to do is make it so it's clear to the applicant so that they don't have to keep coming back and coming back.
Correct.
Okay. There's no other comments. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
There you go. Okay. Any further discussion?
no, sir.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. We have staff reports on both of the things that we had public hearings about tonight. Actually.
There is not a staff report.
I didn't see one for A, yeah.
There's not on 25-22 for the reason that we were waiting for the stormwater resolution all the way through about three today. And are still in the space of trying to sort of figure out, compliance.
So we can go ahead and go to old business.
Do I have to recuse myself for that? Do I have to recuse myself for that?
For the, yeah, for A. So Dylan's stepping back out again for 25-22. So, okay, so now we have our discussion on this. Basically what we've got is an application that is still not complete. Okay, because it doesn't, we don't have it signed off on, so there are a few options we could take on this, okay? Assuming they don't want to withdraw it. Okay, the first one would be to ask if I think in either case, we would wait till next month to make a decision on this. Okay, to give time for whichever way we want to do it, but the first would be to ask Abby to prepare a motion for denying without prejudice due to the fact that it's not a complete application. The second possibility, and maybe have both under consideration, would be to have a approval if there's a sign, if based on what's been submitted so far, the town engineer is able to assign it somehow.
That's a good one too.
Okay, so we could, Bob has submitted new material to the town engineer, so he can review that. Okay, this would give him time to do it if we put it off till next month to make a decision.
But there can be no back and forth between.
Yeah, there'd be no ambiguity. If
There's no more back and forth time.
Yeah, no more back and forth. So if we, like the chairman said, that's what I was aiming for. We can make an approval, pending Chuck's.
No, I'm saying
Chair.
we table it for now and
See what
next
the
month you
see what
have
the-
two
see what the engineer
possibilities.
comes
Yeah,
back
two
with.
possibilities.
And we can still receive information from our staff.
Right.
He just can't converse with their.
No, they can't, but if,
Well,
so we're not denying it. So if we don't, say
but we
we
just table it till this.
table it, waiting, what you said, also said, what I said before. Pending approval from, so it doesn't have to go back and forth.
Right.
When, and there's no more convincing with that.
Whatever is in the record.
Whatever's in the record.
Chuck could make an
stays.
opinion on
Chuck-
what's in the record.
Right,
and that would-
so if Chuck comes up and he says, Abby, or, whatever. I did all the calculation, it does work, then we can move on.
Right.
Alright, so that's it. So that's the way I wanna go. You can word it any way you want.
Okay.
In the interest of the applicant getting it right to satisfy, is there an option we can do where somehow the two applicant engineer and the town engineer can communicate, there is. no-
Absolutely not.
No,
Not even a denial without prejudice and
You
a-
can
No,
deny,
no.
you can deny without prejudice, but that's a denial, and these two cannot
that's-
converse.
they can't,
So with the applicant, I'm sorry, but if the applicant withdrew and reapplied, it still have a long period of time to.
yeah, they're,
I'm just trying to see, I wanna see the, I wanna have the best process put forward on behalf of the applicant,
I
so.
want what's best for the town and what's best for the applicant, and the way our chairman worded it, and what Chuck said, that's the way to go, so. There's no more,
There is, and I agree with what you're saying, that that's a feasible approach. The problem with that is that should come up with even a question.
That's what I'm trying to
Right,
do,
that's
is
So I
there a
think
way
what I
to,
wanted to ask Abby is, if the applicant withdrew and then reapplied immediately, we would have time to open a public hearing next month, listen to it, close it, and vote on it next month anyway.
If the commission, we have time, if the commission is comfortable waiving that first sort of 65 days between receipt and the opening of the public hearing because of the history of this application, absolutely, you're able to do that. What will happen is the public hearing would open this period of, entering the application. They would have the ability to speak to Chuck because they would be refining their application materials for public hearing and building a record. And
We could also waive the application fee, correct?
waive the town application fee, but not the state $60 fee.
no, it's just state fee,
$60.
60,
Yeah.
so 60.
So we do have to collect, we have no choice, even town projects have to pay the state fee. But the town.
But either way, we would be able to make a decision next month.
If the record was complete and the design were resolved and you had Chuck's recommendation at the time of the public hearing.
Because, the only reason I'm even contemplating all this, because. When Chuck's been in front of us 100 times, if he says, we're not closed, this ain't working, this ain't gonna work, we always go by it, Chuck, we don't even second guess. But when he says, we're this close, it could be just a calculation or so, that's why I don't wanna.
Right.
That's
Mr. Barr,
why
that's why I don't wanna tell Mr. Barr,
But that's why I'm suggesting to go this other route, because
is that other route feasible though?
Yes, like you just said it is. Yeah.
I don't wanna hurt these people, I don't wanna keep bringing Chuck in.
But I think that the issue is, Chuck could have a very minor question.
Right.
That he could say,
Oh, that's right, you
yes, no, the
can't ask,
and he can't ask.
okay.
So if we take this route, we can have the same amount of time, but we can virtually guarantee that the information is in, and they can have the back and forth for the next 30 days.
Right.
So we could get this issue settled. I mean, it's gonna cost the applicant another $50, but whatever it is. But I think
Do you feel comfortable with that, Chuck?
that might be a better approach.
We can't.
We can't,
Well,
well, actually, we can, Chuck and staff.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, if I could just say, I think that's the best route to go, because without them communicating, there's nothing there.
Well,
And we're talking about, they're very communicative in regards to having communication.
You've been covering this,
As
right?
a.
On the
as
last
a
weekend,
condition, we cannot make them do that.
oh, I understand, I'm
But
just
what we.
recommending
what I
that, I
would
think
recommend
that's the
is
best
that
choice.
We table this for now, they know what our concerns are. We ask, Abby to prepare, draft motions for next month. The first being deny, without prejudice if the, condition, if the, stormwater hasn't been resolved. The second would be to approve with all the statements if the stormwater is resolved. Okay, and so I would like us to table this for next month, asking everybody to do that. Go ahead.
One question. Could we ask the applicant to withdraw the application tonight and then continue?
The applicant could separately submit something to staff in the interim before we get started writing, or however, that's something that they have that.
What's the best route that,
If I were the applicant, the route I would take would be to withdraw the application, reapply immediately so that the public hearing could be scheduled for next month.
and then.
Same timetable as we're dealing with now.
And then they can communicate.
Yes.
Get everything.
Yeah.
Fix those little tidbits, whatever they are. And if Chuck's comfortable, puts
I mean, there's really nothing more to discuss besides this one issue.
Right.
So.
Well, there is one other thing, and, I think from the sense that we wanna do it, is, to allow them to immediately go to public hearing.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so if they withdraw, I think we should have it on record that we approve them going immediately to the public hearing if they reapply.
And to formally waive any
And
non-state.
formally waive things, okay? Can I get a motion for that?
I'd like to make that an informal motion that we allow them to apply to for immediate public hearing and then we waive the application fee.
And I would like to second that.
Okay.
Or Susan, you could have it.
Thank you.
If the applicant chooses that.
And Susan Marcus seconds.
Okay,
So you need to have it in there, the non-state or.
they got it, they got it.
So we have a motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Voting motion carried, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, the second item is, the text amendment. You know, we did get some comments in opposition to this. However, I think we've made even more exceptions than Greenwich did, because theirs is to 5,000, we went to 10,000, right? I really think that this is a item that is going to make it easier for applicants in the future, because it's taking what we're already doing and making it easier for them to follow the directions and to comply. Because one of the things that is very difficult for somebody who hasn't read the entire set of our regulations, which you all know is just this tiny little document, is that they don't always know what they have to do. And so having this in one clean section, you know, pulling it all together in one clean section, I believe is in best interest of our citizens in their application process. Okay, and, not that I'm biased or anything, but I think, I've worked on regulations for years, and that's always been the goal, is to try to make it so it's easier to understand what the rules are and not obtuse.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Anytime you can eliminate a gray area too is always better. You know, an applicant is much more comfortable applying if they can look at a set of regulations, see exactly what they need to do, instead of having guesswork when they've got to submit an engineer to kind of coax things. So I think, I agree with Michael's statement, and I think that, you know, the commission and Abby have done a great job drafting this proposed text amendment, and I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, there's text here,
Yes, we have.
we have it right off my screen.
Do we have a draft approval here, Abby?
Yep, right here.
I move to add section 36, stormwater management to the Clinton zoning regulations as drafted in PZC 26-7 with an effective date of June 10th, 2025. We gotta change that, I guess.
26.
Yeah, it's 2026, and adopt the following findings of fact. Public hearing for proposed new section 36 of the Clinton zoning regulations met the notice requirements in CGS 8-7D. The proposed text is adopted pursuant to requirements in the town of Clinton's stormwater management plan and is compliant with the Connecticut General Stormwater Permit. The proposed amendments are consistent with section 1.4 purpose of the Clinton zoning regulations in CGS 8-2. The proposed amendments are consistent with the 2025 Plan of Conservation and Development, and the proposed regulations are consistent with the purpose and requirements of Connecticut's Coastal Management Act.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Now we go to, Regulations Committee. And we didn't have a meeting this month. But we have been working. I keep forgetting the name of the firm that's.
I may.
Yes, they have several documents that they sent out for us. The main one really is I look at it and I think there's really just two. There were three documents, but one is the same document with comments. Okay, so you've got the middle housing amendment with comments, and you've got the parking amendment, parking management amendment. Which one did you want to do first?
So I was looking at the comment version of the draft because I had some additional comments to kind of talk through with you, and then and maybe kind of before we get too far into it, go through processes, timing and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So
Do you think, Mr. Chairman, do you guys need me?
No,
I don't.
no, I just wanna take us out for pizza afterwards.
Sure, yeah,
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting everyone.
Thank you.
That's the man behind the closed door that does all this work.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have questions?
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, guys.
Just about the withdrawal, when, do we do it tonight or tomorrow?
Do you want, why don't you put something in writing to me and Lori tomorrow, and then we can go from there, and we can talk more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. You had comments on the comments?
Yep, so as folks know, we're participating with IMEG, formerly FHI Studio, with our consultants, Francisco Gomes and Roy Jacobson, as well as Eliza Lopresti from Rivercog, to craft.
I'm sorry, I just got it, I know him for so many years, Barnett GMC was one of the biggest trucking places to buy trucks, and I'm sorry. Nice to see you this environment. Go ahead.
So we're working through the necessary and the minimum, what we're trying to get to here is to present something to the commission and to the public that is the minimum necessary amendments to be compliant with Public Act 2521. In the face of what we all know is a very compressed schedule and sort of a difficult sort of timeframe to meet. So what we've done is Michael and I met with the consulting team to sort of say, here are some of the priorities. We discussed them as a commission at one of our previous meetings, and I went back to the consultants and said, these are the sort of priorities the commission has relative to affordability, to sort of mixed use versus strictly residential development, those types of things. And so what they came back to us with was this memo that said, here are the recommended areas in your regulations we believe you need to change in order to meet the minimum compliance. We may find over time that we want more tweaks, that when we open up the whole regulations for our comprehensive review, or as we work with CMDA and David Porras on some of our transit development areas, we may find we want more changes or to tweak some of this language, but the purpose here is to achieve compliance. So just so folks remember this regulation, this transit middle housing, those 2 to 9 units that are required to be accounted for in any commercial or mixed use zone. And so they did our analysis and essentially said everything that's not an industrial zone qualifies for us. So that includes the marine zone, since we have common interest communities down there. The existing Toto, our interchange development, all of our business districts, and our village and East Main Village District. So those are the areas where this regulation applies. So that's an important piece. There are elements to this that if we are mandated to make these changes or make changes that are compliant with 25.1 in order to preserve some kind of control over the types of development that come to us within this transit middle housing definition. So what has happened here is IMEG has put together some standards to try to give you some discretion, at the site plan level. So we can't have any public hearings. There's no special exceptions for these developments. But, to put some standards in place that will sort of protect some of the sort of fabric design criteria, character of what you're looking to sort of preserve. And they put some conversation in here about the affordability as well. So to briefly kind of go through some of these pieces, they've added the definitions into our regulations that are in statute to make sure that we're consistent. So to define middle housing, which is sort of divided into two categories, middle housing residential, which is only residential development in 2 to 9 units, or mixed use middle housing, which includes a commercial component. You cannot specify the square footage of commercial to residential ratio, but you can, under the law, require some component of commercial. We had, the memo that you have, essentially includes both permitted uses, the strictly residential and the commercial, in all of these districts that we've talked about, to which this applies. One of the reasons for that was because the legislature was considering making changes to 25-1 that would have taken out some of the ambiguity. Where there's sort of and/or language that towns were looking at using to only permit mixed use development in certain areas. The legislation did not pass, so that it died in the Senate. And so we don't have the benefit of that new language to mandate that we have strictly residential everywhere as well as mixed use. So there is a question for the commission going forward, are there any of the zone districts in which you would like to see mixed use versus strictly residential? And you have the opportunity to consider that. So I did have a conversation with the town attorney about that, leading into this. So what we have here is some notes here. So this is just, kind of a pin. We should discuss what your thoughts are on that. Other pieces here, they've created a section 36. Obviously, we have a section 36 now, so this will all move to section 37. Some of the things that they heard from the commission in comments was about affordability. And they tried to create a standard that was consistent with 830G or in that same kind of vein, but clear for folks. So what they have suggested, and the numbers can shift, but for every 4 dwelling units built within a middle housing development, you would be required to provide 1 affordable unit at 80% AMI that is compliant with the 830G requirements. So all of the affordability plan, the restrictions, the timeframes, all that kind of stuff. So under this, 3 units, you don't have to comply. 4 units, one of those has to be affordable at 80%. Up to 7 units, you're okay. Once you hit that 8th unit, you've got to put your second affordable unit in at 80%.
Did they fix that? They said, there's no restriction on parking. They don't.
We'll get to parking in a minute. I had a separate conversation with parking.
All you want, no parking.
Well, that, yeah.
I'll get there, because that's part 2 of what I'm gonna go over into.
That's part 2, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So in an effort to create more affordability, now the maximum requirement is 25% is middle housing.
This is not an obligation. Affordability is not mentioned in PA 25-1. It's not in there. This is a provision that I may put together based on the commission's last discussion.
Yeah.
To push for affordability.
Okay.
So it is something we are able to do. We are not obligated, and the law does not require us. This is a question for the commission about what you want to see in these developments.
I would have, wanted, if you ended up with 2 units that had to be affordable, one of them be the 60% and one be the 80%.
Okay, and we can provide that feedback. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
how we launch this, you can sort of
Right.
play with these affordability requirements, so,
And we had one question too. There was some discussion about the language, the legal definition of and or, whether it would apply to both or whether it was and or whether those were synonymous.
So the or is the language the town attorney was resting on and essentially saying, look, because they have this or in here, the commission has the authority under the current crafting of the regulation to allow for strictly residential or mixed use. You can do both. No one will preclude you from doing both, but you have that or as an exclusion.
As a grammar person, go one way. As a legislature on this, I wanna go with the or, meaning we can do just the mix.
Mhm.
Okay, like I said, I, grammar wise, that's not correct, but the heck with grammar, let's go with what we can get for the town.
And you may decide that there are certain business districts, certain, it would really need to be a provision by district if you were going to sort of change up whether or not strictly residential or mixed use was gonna be something that you allowed for, but if you wanted to say certainly like in the core of downtown or pick and choose business districts specifically for mixed use, you could do that and then allow for residential in the 2 to 9 units as you get into the village districts or sort of in the interchange development or in the Toto. That would be allowable as well.
Well, I think to be consistent with our plan of conservation and development, the business districts, it should be just mixed use.
I agree.
So. As far as the marine and the village. Marine's got residential in it already, so I would think that wouldn't be a problem, the same with the village.
I would agree that the mixed uses or the business districts that we have now should have to have mixed use. This is with the plan of conservation development. And that was something that we all worked at that whole time, that it was one thing that we were all
About a year.
in agreement with, that, we've got to kind of maintain the commercial uses in our commercial zones.
Yep, so again, Michael and I have a meeting with them at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to give them the feedback from tonight, so we will absolutely include that in there as well as the 60%.
I'll try to remember what I said.
I'm making a list.
What you said was, I gotta tell you, it's very articulate, very nice, very nice, right, Doc? What he said.
There, in the affordability piece, there are some tweaks in here that I would recommend making, sort of tying the affordability plan to conform to the 830G provisions. Ultimately, one of the things the town attorney and I have talked about is crafting sort of our own template plan so that folks can just go ahead and plug and play a little bit, so it's easier to be compliant, make sure DOH reviews it, and then maybe kind of cut some of the time and cost it takes folks to generate these plans and make it a little bit easier. There's another provision in here, again, so then we get into the standards that are suggested in here under the summary review process. So where we require design guidelines for the East Main Village District, we also have those remnant village district pieces around the police station and the corner of 145. So I would just reference back to section 22 to make sure that those design standards are in place. Again, the waterfront access piece pulls some language from other sections of the regulations. These references may change when we redo the regulations down the road, but for now they would be compliant. Let's see. Some of these things, so like equipment and service areas, we've got some open space requirements. You've got to provide 100 square feet of open space and a patio or outside space or something, an amenity for every single unit. Again, these are standards you would be putting in to help guide the form of these particular developments. And if you don't have them in, and an application comes in absent these, you're required to kind of do whatever meets the current site plan requirements. Equipment and screening service, I wanted some better trash screening and that kind of stuff. So these are sort of minor pieces. We may, let's see, one of the things they talk about in the mixed use, they talk about first story use in their language. And one of the questions I had to the commission, so what they're saying is you're really supposed to have first floor commercial only and then residential above. One question I had was, depending on the configuration of the building, would we be okay with the commercial fronting the main public street and a residential unit at grade in the back on the first floor, if that's something you would want to consider or not, or give people that flexibility.
I don't have an opinion on that.
I mean, it's always preferable to have it on.
Oh, well.
But I think that, I think it's preferable from a commercial use to have exposure on the front, but that's up to the applicant, really.
Well, we can create that standard, and if we create the standard, they have to meet it.
I think it's better to have the commercial space facing the.
Well, I think the question was, would you allow the back to be residential?
Would you allow a non-street facing side of the building or something that from which the public does not take its primary access to be residential on the first floor? Because what they've given us is where it's mixed use, the first floor is commercial.
So based on what you just said though about, we have, if without, in the absence of regulations, any application that comes forth gets approved at the current regulations. Would it benefit us to add more scenarios like that to then shape it into our best scenario, as opposed to if this proposal were to come along, flopped, not the way we want it, we would just have to approve it.
Right, so if the regulations are adopted the way that they're proposing, so today, right,
Yeah.
you would be obligated to do. All residential or mixed use, whatever they're proposing with whatever setbacks, trash screening, anything else that is currently in our. Your stuff. In this proposal, what they've given you for the language, if they come to you with a mixed use, they are obligated to have strictly commercial on the entire first floor.
What I'm specifically asking, I understand what you're saying there. In the scenario we're discussing right now, it's like, I don't have a preference. Well, does it behoove us to have a preference? Because in that scenario specifically, hey, we don't have a preference, so it's gonna be whatever.
Right, if we allow for that mixed use on the first floor, we should specify
On
because.
the front commercial
But-
on the back.
correct.
Be very specific as we go.
Yes, because again, this is not discretionary, so if they meet it, they get it.
So continue with the preference, even though.
I mean-
we might not have-
I wouldn't have any objection to the rear portion of a first floor being residential.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
can be
did.
specific like that.
But we
say
should be, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I agree with you entirely, but we should be.
Oh, no, I agree, and I think that we should be specific about having a commercial space on the frontage. And if, first floor residential place might be good for handicap.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also didn't have a preference, but it sounds like it benefits us only too.
Yeah,
So you can write it so that, they have the option of having the whole first floor or just the front part of the first floor.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And so, yeah, so, and again, we can give this feedback to IMEG and they can come back to us with, feedback. There are other, so they've also prohibited certain uses, adult entertainment and tattoo parlors. There are other pieces in the Toto and other sections of our regulations where there's other prohibitions, including drive-ups, limiting of firearm sales. I don't know to what degree we can limit tobacco or any of that kind of stuff, but is there anything you would want to limit in this section other than what is included here? Because you do have limitations in other districts.
Taxes.
Marijuana sales or cannabis.
So those are prohibited across the board.
Marijuana.
Yep, so those are not allowed, period. So if there's anything else that, really is only, those the drive-up facilities, which I think might be appropriate here to be clear.
What's prohibited under those?
So right now, adult entertainment, tobacco, drive-up facility, would be, sorry, not tobacco, sorry. Prohibited uses would be adult entertainment and tattoo parlors, which is consistent with many prohibited.
Wait, don't bring up tattoos. I'm the one that got that tattoo.
I don't know.
Massive.
So
What I had to go through.
It's pretty ubiquitous throughout the regulations now, with the exception of very specific areas where it's allowed. And then the other pieces in the Toto, at least, drive-up facilities are prohibited. And the question is, if you're gonna allow these smaller mixed-use pieces, do you want drive-up facilities, drive-through windows and that kind of stuff allowed? Because in some of the business districts, they are allowed. And so if you're gonna say, okay, in a business district, you can have 3 units or, above, you can be in a middle housing, have 3 units above a commercial use on the first floor with a drive-through.
Are vapes considered tobacco?
That's a good question. I would need to check with, and also limiting tobacco sales specifically and some of the firearms provisions. Like, we allow firearms as an accessory to other uses, but not as a primary sale. And it can get a little bit dicey because some of this stuff is separately regulated,
So that
so.
was my dream. I just wanted to own a cigarette and gun store near a train station.
I'm so sorry.
It sounds like you would get a free gun with your pack of cigarettes.
Right.
How else would you do that?
So anyway, it's something to consider. So I just want you to be aware of it, that the only prohibitions are here. So the drive-through was the one I was
I think the
most.
drive-through one is something that would be considered, because if it's less than 9 units, it's a small area is what we're talking about. Imagine the traffic, especially if it's in the,
Yeah.
like the center of town area, like, just like.
I mean, particularly if you had, residential in the back.
It's like a nightmare. You're knocking on your window in front. So something to consider, the other piece, there's again, some pieces here, there's I want to cross-reference some of our dark skies requirements and just make sure that we're consistent. They have added some language to section 10 to say that the site plan process is the discretionary process and follows that, summary review piece. So that's important. I do want to add, since we're opening up section 10, reference to the new stormwater section, so that's clear as part of this review process as well. So it's not, there's no question about whether or not it's required. Again, many of these are pretty straightforward, but if anybody has any questions or comments, certainly let me know quickly. So one of the things that they're looking at, and they reviewed it in one of our sections, we have places throughout our regulations where there's minimum apartment sizes. Can't have those. That's been a prohibition for some time. So what I was going to do is just give them the section references, and anywhere that we have those minimums, now would be a good time to.
What are you gonna put those at, 500?
Yeah, some people say 500. There's 850 somewhere. There's different.
850, big.
It is, but we're not allowed to.
Go look at my apartments, 900 square feet.
Yeah, but we're not allowed.
We're not allowed to do it.
We gotta take the number out.
Yeah. We're not allowed to deal with housing for any kind of
So
housing.
I'm just saying.
Outside of the total area. Because there are a couple of properties in town that aren't necessarily in that transit development area that have an additional house, it's 300 square feet, that can't get financed because it doesn't meet minimum criteria or minimum sizing.
What is that? What is that number?
So are you talking about accessory dwelling units?
No, because I'd love to be, but the house is 728 square feet or 782.
The whole house?
That 300 square foot, for lack of a better term, apartment house
Oh my God.
is too big to be considered an ADU.
Right, so that's a question for our ADU pieces.
Yeah.
And that's a separate statute from which Clinton did not exempt itself, and so there's other provisions there. If there were 3 units involved and it was in one of these districts that had transit middle housing associated with it, then yes, but if it's in a strictly residential district, we would need to have a different conversation to resolve that issue.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure these stuff wouldn't have any impact on elsewhere.
What is being proposed here is middle housing, residential and middle housing mixed use would be added as new uses in the use tables, right? And so it wouldn't be something, so they won't even appear in the residential use tables. It will only appear in the commercial industrial section, and they would be prohibited in the industrial and allowed in the rest. So that's where this would go. So those are the things that we'll be discussing tomorrow morning, and want to make sure that we're consistent. The other thing that Eddie asked about was the parking. And so I just want to pull up the parking piece of this.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I really like the PMDs. I mean, what they came up with basically takes all Route 1 and 81 up through the interchange zone and makes it part of a PMD.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're lucky that our square footage, so we have, remember the law says you can have 2, so a PMD of this park mitigation sort of district can be 4% of your overall area in town, and you can have 2 of them can be contiguous. So when they ran their 8%, and we said, give us as much of Route 1 as you can cover and as much of our commercial zones that would be affected by transit middle housing, this is what they came up with. So you can see there's a black line down the middle right about here, but there are 2 4% districts. They've done the calculations, and this is what we get. And that means that folks are not automatically exempted from having to provide parking. They have to meet the state minimums, which is already what we have in our zoning regulations. Our regulations are already compliant with state minimums. So it's essentially what we see today. That doesn't mean that if folks are in that 16 or more category, that they can't do a study and give you other information and sort of negotiate for parking. But for these smaller ones, you'd be covered. So those are the 2 things. Now, what would happen? So what would happen next is Michael and I meet with them tomorrow morning, give the feedback from the group tonight. IMEG comes back and finalizes language and provides us with something we can go forward with for an application. The monkey wrench in this is how long our referrals take, because we are a coastal community. It has to go up to deep. So the sooner that we can get this back when they're in its final form, the better. That is critical. And the sooner we can get an application in, the better. So once one of the sort of sticking points for our conversation tomorrow really does need to be this question of timing. If we are going to get to our public hearing on June 22nd, so if we're going to receive, technically, I mean, we're not really, it's a commission-led thing, so where timeframes are sort of our own. But if we are going to formalize the application on the 8th and have a hearing on the 22nd, I would like to get referrals out to folks a little bit earlier and say the application is coming, can we start this process sooner? So if we are in agreement on these changes and what will be coming to you will include them, then I think Michael and I can sort of push this, a little bit harder. Because, the earliest, so if our public hearing, if our adoption were to happen on the 22nd, which is the fastest, without sort of bypassing IMEG and just essentially going off on our own right now, the earliest we could do this would be to have the appeal period expire July 9th. So we've got a little bit of window there, but our town attorney is fairly confident that applying the standards would be, or advising applicants to understand what the adopted regulation is, even if it's not effective because of the appeal period, should have some weight with most applicants, in that 9-day period. And again, this is we still have to do our referrals.
And then if you have 9 days, I don't think we're going to get 100 applications.
No, we may get one, and it may not be something that is, I have a feeling it will be hopefully consistent with what we've discussed tonight, based on conversation I've had. So.
I mean, I just want to say, I'm so impressed with you. I can't believe
this is fun. We love this one.
They take all, suck it all in.
Do we need a motion?
So, yeah, so if I can summarize what we're taking to them, so we will be talking about of those 1 to 4 units of affordability, the second unit, the first unit can be done at 80% AMI, but the second unit would be 60%. To be consistent with the P O C D, the business districts would be only mixed use and all others would have both purely residential and mixed use provisions in them. We would allow for first floor commercial and residential, provided that the commercial fronts on any public way. And there was one more question there about whether or not we would permit subterranean residential, which isn't terribly consistent with what I would recommend. I saw that language and I was like, how about that? Yeah, I mean, I would just rather see them take that out and essentially say, any basement is not a residential.
Right.
Yes.
No.
It's not to say it could be used for storage or finished basements wouldn't be allowed, but we wouldn't have them as separate residential, especially in mixed use building. And then to add the prohibition on drive-throughs would be the other piece of this. So if you're good with that, we can bring that to the point.
I think I'm good with it.
Me too.
You want a motion on that, Abby?
It'd be helpful, but it's not necessary, it's helpful.
Dylan has a comment first.
My thought on commercial on the first floor and allowing residential too, a lot of the properties in this district, all the commercials, there's no like street front parking, so they'll have to go by all the, if they're parking in the rear, they're gonna have to go by apartments and, I don't know, like make it awkward or serve for people, like.
It might, and the question is, do you want to allow for it if the site, permits, they can take advantage of it, and if it's not gonna be good for them, they don't have to do it. Just what we're saying is it would be allowed for, and if we're saying that we think that it's not the design that we want, then we leave this provision of strictly commercial on the first floor.
Oh, okay.
So, but we can't, what will happen is you'll get applications in and we can't pick and choose or sort of workshop this with the applicants. They're gonna come in and it's summary review. We don't get the ability to say, well, we'd really like you to do this. I can push them that way and sort of say, hey, here's some feedback on preliminary discussion. And if they came in for a preliminary application review with you, you could certainly render an opinion.
Okay.
But the reality is, once that summary review application comes in, if it's not in the regs, we don't have the standard to uphold.
I think I don't mind to have it partial. You have to think too, if you want the commercial development, which we want to have that exposure on Route 1, say. You have to make the whole project viable. So if you're going to insist that it's strictly commercial on the first floor, you might eliminate the application altogether. So to me, I think it's a better option to have, they can still put the whole first floor commercial should they choose to do so.
Right.
But there's places where it's just not viable.
Do you remember recent projects have had issues with viability and tried.
Right.
So recently, we're seeing that, so like, I mean, that's a really good point, yeah.
Okay. So I have a motion to, accept the summary that Abby just gave as our talking points when Abby and I, talk with these gentlemen, or these, consultants tomorrow.
So move.
I'll move. Absolutely. Yeah, Jay got the second there. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, any motion carries. Do we have any correspondence or bills? No? Okay, so adjournment, anybody want to make a motion?
I like to make a motion to adjourn.
I said.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, any motion carries.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
We're
Good night,
adjourned.
everybody.
8:44.